the persons that worked very closely to deal with the ills of the society. Excellent job. And you can see the pathway that the country has taken is to very specifically and specially recognize each profession especially. Madam Speaker, you can see we have a law specifically for lawyers. We have one now specifically for engineers and for different other professionals. And it is important, Madam Speaker, that we have one specifically for social workers, so that we can also regulate one specifically for social workers, so that we can also regulate this industry, so that not every quack who wakes up and decides now they want to be declared as social workers would social workers. And also when you have a clear bill around social work, it means that it regulates the way they operate. The society, we are going through a lot of challenges as a society. And you can see a lot of, you can see a lot I moved on, but I still do understand them because people are I moved on, but I still do understand them because people are projecting. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Honorable Member, and indeed, because I know many members want to speak to this, I want to congratulate you and again re-emphasize, Madam Speaker, that when you talk about social work, you touch a very special place in my heart, because my mother, other than helping many struggling young Kenyans, also took care of 8 of us. She was widowed when our firstborn was in class 7. And she raised all 8 of us. And all of us had a decent schooling. Almost all of us went up to university and beyond. And because of that, this profession is very special to me. I second and congratulate once more the Honorable Member for bringing such an excellent bill. Thank you.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2023, be read a second time. Members wishing to contribute, please put the intervention button. Okay. The Honorable Member for Suna West, I think I see you are the first.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to congratulate Honorable Joshua Kimilu for bringing this particular bill. This bill is long overdue because for any profession to be recognized and respected, there must be regulatory body. Therefore, when this bill is passed and enacted as an act of parliament, it will enable the social workers in Kenya to be well equipped to work even in the national market, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, giving somebody who is educated a practicing license is like adding value to the experience or the academic work that person has done. Two, when social workers are going to be now regulated and they'll have work ethics, there'll be a body which will be disciplining them and even issuing certificate. It brings sanity into that particular field. The end effect is the consumers of their services now will be protected. It means when a social worker maybe misbehaves or go against the work ethics, there is a body or somebody somewhere which can correct such a particular person. Madam Speaker, you know, the market, Kenyan market space is shrinking. Therefore, we need to equip our people so that they can search for markets outside our boundaries. By so giving these people practice licenses and then also recognizing their work through a professional body, it will enable them to increase their chances of getting employment. Madam Speaker, as well, for social workers from different profession, from the medical side, the judiciary, and even the education sectors, they'll be now be recognized and known because as we speak now, very few people are able to differentiate between the social workers working in the medical field, the social workers working in the education field, and those working in the judiciary. So, Madam Speaker, I'm urging my fellow colleagues that let us support this bill, let us fast-track it so that it can enable the Kenyans in that field to also enjoy their profession. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kipkelion, you wanted to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I want to add my voice to this bill and to speak as a member of the committee that sat through the presentation by the Honourable Kimilu. And Madam Speaker, as our colleagues have said, this bill is long overdue. And Madam Speaker, we sat and went through the bill at length last year and wish to ask this House, Madam Speaker, to pass this bill into law so that the social work professionals can have their board established, and Madam Speaker, so that they are vetted and the register of the professionals is cleaned and is not amorphous as it is right now, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, when the bill is divided into 9 sections, Madam Speaker, and it has gone through the stages, the preambles, the merits, and the boards that will be formed, Madam Speaker, and from our perspective, we find that it is a bill that is long overdue and we seek to support it on the committee perspective. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nyatike, Honourable Tom Odenge. He's left? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and allow me to congratulate my brother for coming up with this timely bill before the House. As a country, I think we have lagged behind for quite too long. If you look at the social work we are trying now to classify and make ring fence for the professionals, in all developed countries all over the world, this thing has been done, and most of the social workers now who are coming down here to train our people, majority of them got their training usually in America, because we were doing social work, but we never knew it was such an important profession which needed such kind of recognition and protection. By coming out as a country and giving these people an act which can protect the services they are giving to our people, I think is timely. Because when you talk of social work, you'll realize in health sector, they play a key role. When you go to educational sector, they play a key role. Even if you go back to the community, the social aspect is key to our people. But if we come out and encourage our people to train as social workers, and again we encourage them to protect themselves so that the government and ourselves can also recognize them as professionals and be given duties and jobs which are commensurate to the services we are getting from them, I think this one is going to give us key element which we have been lacking as a country and make it more professional and attractive as a profession and a ladder of people who can either employ themselves or be employed and strengthen our county functions. If you look at the county government currently, the key services offered by the county are based on social activities. If you get people who are trained on those things, you realize counties will be better and will be offering very, very key services to our people, which majority of us have not realized are needed by our people most. So by recognizing and professionalizing the issues related to social work, I think this one is timely and it's good for our people. Just like the way our minority whip was putting it across, how it helped them in their home. She saw it when our mother was doing the job. So if that thing helped them from the family level until 8 of them got educated, why don't we also encourage ourselves and make this thing be more attractive to most of our people so that we professionalize it and protect it for our needed services so that our people can also enjoy social activities and social services within our counties and within our families. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of the following schools in the public gallery. Rockside Academy from Embakasi East Constituency, Nairobi County. And also the Kendrick School from Kajiado North Constituency, Kajiado County. And I'll call upon Honorable Ngongoyo to welcome the schools on our behalf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to welcome the two schools, the one from Embakasi East and Kenvic from Kajiado North. Madam Speaker, Kenvic is a very good and performing school in Ololua ward of Kajiado North. As the area member of parliament, I want to tell them that parliament is a good place to work. This is where decisions for this country are made. And I would ask them to work hard so that part of them in the gallery and even in their school will have somebody to come and represent Kajiado North in this constituency. This is a good place to work. It's one of the places where ideas and policies are decided, and parliament makes decisions that affect the whole country from this very small place. So welcome very much, work hard in your studies, and I'm sure you will one day find yourself where I am seated today. So as Ngogoyo Onesmus, your area member of parliament, I am happy to welcome all the schools, and more specifically Kenvic, which is a good school in my constituency. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Marakwet West, Honourable Timothy Toroitich.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Honourable Speaker, from the onset, I wish to thank the Honourable Kimilu for this progressive legislation which seeks to recognize and protect social workers in this country. Honourable Speaker, recognizing a body is very essential in determining the output of that particular body. The reason why lawyers in this country, Honourable Speaker, work within specified, in terms of they are able to discharge their duties without any compromise is because they have a professional body, which is the Law Society of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, for the social workers to have a body, it will be very important in terms of regulating them. And therefore, they must be able also to stipulate to a certain kind of professional in terms of the performance of their duties so that they can be able to work properly within the system. Honorable Speaker, as a lawyer, you are aware that before sentencing is meted to a person in a court of law, there is what you call a probation report that is submitted by a probation officer. Honorable Speaker, sometimes these officers are compromised and they submit reports before the courts of law which are half-baked or have been corrupted in a certain manner. Honorable Speaker, if you look at this proposed piece of law under section clause 29, it provides very clearly on the discipline of members of that body. It says under clause 29 that a person registered under this act commits an offense on an act of professional misconduct if the person engages in corrupt practice, among other professional misconduct that is listed thereunder. Honorable Speaker, that means that even innocent people, those who have been taken to a court of law, and the court gives a directive that a probation report be issued by that particular officer, that officer must know that she is working as a professional officer and therefore must issue a report that is not compromised. That is going to protect even innocent individuals who have been charged in a court of law, and therefore when the court awaits that report must meet that particular threshold. Honorable Speaker, the only challenge I have with this legislation is that it needs a clear definition as to social work, because this bill limits those officers working under that department to the sector of health, education, or social services. I believe that the other officers who are working as social workers under other departments. So, Honorable Speaker, that definition needs to be looked at so that it should accommodate more sectors in this country. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to congratulate the member, because if you look at the issue of funding, many professions in this country want to depend on the exchequer in terms of funding. But this one has talked about its own source of revenue. So, Honorable Speaker, something which is commendable. And if you look at clause 34, it talks about the source of funds for this body. And it says such monies or assets as may accrue or vest in the council in the course of performance of its powers and functions. And 2, such monies that as may be payable to the council pursuant to the act, donations or gifts. It doesn't depend on the exchequer for its funding. So I believe this is the way to go for professional bodies in this country instead of depending on the exchequer for its funding. Honorable Speaker, for that reason, I support, save that I shall be proposing amendments when it comes to the committee of the whole House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Arieda, Honorable Atienda Amolo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill by the Honorable Joshua Kivinda Kimilu. I have gone through this bill, and in the shortest possible time, I wish to express my support for it. I am the son of a social volunteer who volunteered for 40 years when he was alive, and I support the idea of social work. The distinction perhaps being that a volunteer need not be paid, but once you say social work, it might bring elements of pay. Madam Speaker, I have gone through the bill. I think it will need some fine-tuning. It will need some fine-tuning around the definition of social work. It will need some fine-tuning around registration of a social worker, around the Institute for Social Work, and around the offenses. Particularly in the definition, it will need to be shielded from other areas that sometimes are described as social work. Some people sometimes loosely call the oldest profession that is sex workers. Sometimes they're loosely referred to as social workers. Now we must shield and ring fence the definition in such a way that there is no possibility. I see the Honorable KJ, in whose constituency perhaps a lot of these workers reside protesting. He did not hear that. Now, so, Madam Speaker, with that, I support. Thank you very much.
What's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm just kindly seeking for protection because, you know, the Honorable Otiende is a man of letters. He's studied language very well. But Madam Speaker, the point that he was making is a very serious point that he should not have watered down with a cheeky comment. The truth of the fact is, true social workers are the oldest profession in the world. But the cheeky comment that he makes, it dilutes the point that he wanted to make. And Madam Speaker, allow me not to repeat what he has said because it was totally out of context. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I think Honorable Otiende Molo just said that we need to have a proper definition of who are social workers because there are various categories. But I don't think he made any insinuations. Okay, honorable members, allow me to interrupt our debate. Honorable members, allow me to interrupt our debate to recognize the presence of Gilgil Day Secondary School from Gilgil constituency, Nakuru County, who are seated in the public gallery. And I'd like to request Honorable Martha Wangari, member for Gilgil, to welcome them on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And allow me to also thank the Office of the Clerk because it has been very helpful and efficient in ensuring that we are able to clear our schools to visit Parliament. This session we are doing very well and I hope that we can maintain. Madam Speaker, allow me to join you in welcoming Gilgil Day Secondary School. We had another team yesterday, like I said, Madam Speaker, because our school is quite huge. So we are doing 2 delegations from yesterday. And I would just want to wish them well. And as they hold to their mantra that knowledge is power, I hope that they can be able to learn something today as they observe the interactions and the proceedings of this House, and also encourage them because it's just a few years, then we'll have some of them becoming members of Parliament and other leadership positions, Madam Speaker. I hope that we can also be very good role models to them and to generally the kids who are visiting, Madam Speaker. So thank you for indulging me and I welcome them to the House. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Kitui South, Honorable Rachel Nyamai. Members, remember I'm picking those who have pressed the intervention button. That indicates that you're interested in this particular debate.
Thank you.
Come to the clerk's desk.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would like from the onset to say that I support this bill, which has been proposed by the Honorable Joshua Kimilu. Honorable Speaker, this bill concerns the social workers, professionals, and it intends to ensure that the profession is more organized, that people get registered in order to provide the best services possible as envisaged in this bill that the member has worked very hard on. Madam Speaker, I listened to the Honorable Kimilu as he moved this bill and as he tried to even tell the House the kind of people that were engaged and what he would like to achieve from it. And I realized that it's a very important bill. Madam Speaker, it is important to notice that even in construction, in IT, in medicine, and in all other professionals that are seen to be very, very important for our country and that are supposed to bring development in the country, as much as we value them, it is important to notice that they cannot succeed without the soft part. And the soft part, Honorable Speaker, is also includes social work. Honorable Speaker, this bill intends to regulate the profession. Madam Speaker, there is a possibility of anybody who assists within a community to feel that they are social workers without training, without any form of organization. They just say that I am a social worker. So this bill is going to ensure that this profession is taken seriously, it is regulated, that the professionals are registered, and that quality of service that they offer is going to be better than it is today. We notice as the Honorable Kimilu was trying to give different categories of social workers, he talked about those who are in the health sector. The health workers, the social workers who are within the health sector will be different from a social worker who is within the department of, for example, construction, because this could be people who are dealing with safety and also other matters. So I believe that by coming up with this bill, the social workers are going to be properly classified within specific other professions that they support, and then they'll be able to get the requisite training so that they can offer the best service as it were. Honorable Speaker, the bill also proposes possibilities of social workers participating meaningfully in development. Once the social workers have been categorized, once the funding for them has been properly identified, then it will be possible to link them with the departments where they'll be most useful. And I believe that this will not open opportunities locally in Kenya, but also internationally. Social workers are needed. So then, if someone would like, for example, to get an opportunity to work abroad, they'll not just say they are social workers. They'll say they are social workers. They'll tell where they have been classified. They'll produce evidence of registration. They'll produce evidence of training. And this means that the country will be more organized in even providing the services outside the country. Honorable Speaker, this bill also gives the social workers a voice. At this moment, you realize that if social workers are working within, for example, engineering sector, they may be seen to be inferior to the engineers, such that the bosses within that institution will feel that they deal with engineers, they budget for engineers, and then they do not budget for the soft part aspect, which is the social workers. So this bill is going to ensure that when they are registered, they are hired in an organized way, then their voice will be heard and their numbers will be bigger. They'll not just be 2 or 3 in an institution which has thousands and thousands of people. So then it gives them value, it gives them a voice, and it also gives them a possibility of a proper remuneration. Honorable Speaker, I also realize that this bill is targeting ensuring that the social workers' unethical practices are dealt with very well. Madam Speaker, one of the reasons I support this bill is that there are so many unethical practices within the social work sector. And I would like to give an example of social workers who are working, for example, in mental institutions, where there are so many accusations and allegations of victims who may have been mishandled by the social workers. So this bill will ensure that in case of any unethical practices, they can be dealt with as per the law. Honorable Speaker, that the world is changing today, and what used to be called social work 10 years ago, what is social work today, and what will be social work in another 5 years will change because of the current world situation, where people experience different things so fast because of the computer, because of artificial intelligence, because of too much information being bumped in communities. This bill will ensure that matters related to that are handled. Madam Speaker, I'm also very much encouraged to notice that this bill does not request for funding from the Exchequer. And I think this is one aspect that the House has taken seriously, that professional bodies cannot just go organize themselves, hook themselves up with a ministry or with an institution, and then start looking for a budget line within the budget for the country. And this bill by the Honorable Kimilu proposes that the professionals are going to finance themselves by making sure that they are organized, they'll seek for donations, they'll write proposals to ensure that they are not also relying on the same kitty where Kenyans are struggling. For example, at the moment, we are struggling to get money for TB drugs, for HIV drugs, and other health challenges that we are facing. So, Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill that the Honorable Kimilu has come up with. I would like to congratulate him and support him and encourage also other members to support. There are social workers of different sectors, those working in hospitals, those who call themselves the gender experts, those who are dealing with in prison for too long, and they get out coming up with this important bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for West Mugirango, Honourable Stephen Mugaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. And I want to, at the onset, express my support for this bill and to congratulate the sponsor, Honorable Kimilu, for a well-thought and well-crafted bill. As a lawyer, I do know that unless a profession is defined and its registration provided for in law, and a legal framework for the operation of that profession is provided for by law, then the practitioners do so in vanity. I want to thank the sponsor of this bill for making that legal framework happen, and I will be urging all my colleagues to support this bill. Because social workers have been working voluntarily. In fact, many of them have been carrying that tag social worker without any clear definition of what is social work. I know in hospitals, I know in prisons, I know in society, and even in our faith-based organizations, we have volunteers who do a lot of social work. This bill now provides a framework for mainstreaming all social workers so that they are recognized in law and their certification is provided for and protected. And this will also, Madam Speaker, create a mechanism for us distilling the professionals from quacks, because many a time people masquerade as professionals, whether medics, whether lawyers, whether social workers, and bring that profession to disrepute. This bill will now sift the professionals and separate them from the pretenders so that that profession is recognized. And I want to thank this member for bringing this bill during the 13th Parliament. And it is during a government whose one of the manifesto was that every hustle matters. Indeed, social workers are hustlers in their own right. And until now, there was no legal framework for their hustle being recognized. And therefore, this bill is properly aligned with the manifesto of the government of the day, and it will therefore be falling on very fertile land. And it is my prayer that this bill gets assented to as an act of parliament, so that the social worker hustlers can also find protection in law. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you. And honorable members, let's try and keep our submissions brief, because I can see there's quite a bit of interest on this bill. I now, the honorable member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Atandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. And from the outset, let me say that I support the bill as presented. And to say that the role of social workers is something that we all understand, and the role they play in working with our communities in the areas of poverty, alleviation, working with people to sort out community issues. Madam Speaker, the bill is very good, and I also support professional bodies to self-regulate, because this is really the way these bodies can be able to effectively serve their members. But Madam Speaker, I just wanted to say that I've gone through the bill, and the bill will need a few areas to be rectified. And some of the proposals that I want to say is that I have seen that there is heavy government involvement in the affairs of this institute when it is set up. I tend to think that one of the things that should be avoided is to involve government. I say that one of the professional bodies that I like is the LSK. Law Society of Kenya is one self-regulating professional body where you will never find government agencies being part and parcel of the council. I have seen here in the committee report where there are proposals for cabinet secretary to be a member of the council, Mara principal secretary, Commission of Higher Education. I think these are government entities that should never be part of a professional body. In any case, if there's going to be government participation, then the government participation should only come at the end when we are talking about disciplinary actions, where we need people to be disciplined, members to be disciplined, where they go against some of their objectives. But otherwise, I think the bill is good. It is going to professionalize social work and make social work respected and recognized, and also to make members be able to be certified and be able to serve in other parts of the country. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I support.
Honorable members, I can see I have like 4 people left. The honorable member for Embakasi, Honorable Babu Owino.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to contribute to this bill, and before that, I want to take this opportunity to welcome members of Rockside Academy. The students are here today, and I want to advise the students, together with other students who are here, that it is only education that shall help you in life. That through education, you will help that parent of yours who is struggling to look for fees. It is said that the only thing that can replace a book is the next book. Therefore, make sure you work hard, and you shall reach the city of victory through education. Thank you. And Madam Speaker, as I contribute to this bill on professionalizing social workers, I want to state, Madam Speaker, that social workers are ignored and have been ignored for a very long time. That everybody in this country has a body that is protecting them. Every profession has a body that is protecting them. If you look at lawyers, they have the Law Society of Kenya. If you look at doctors and medics, they have a body, KMPDU, that is protecting their interest. If you look at teachers, they also have a body that is protecting their interest. Madam Speaker, it is therefore in the interest of the social workers to have a body that shall protect their interest. And social workers must be treated with utmost respect. And in addition to that, we also fight for the salary increment, if possible, of these social workers, because these are people who are doing a lot in the community, in our society, to better our community, yet they are being paid very little amount of money, and they have challenges to meet, challenges of fees, challenges of other bills, and this, Madam Speaker, I really support the bill by Mheshimiwa Kimilu. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Next chance will go to Honorable Haika Mizigi, member for Taita Taveta.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for also giving me this chance to contribute to this bill. And on the onset, I want to congratulate Honorable Kimilu, member for Kaiti, for recognizing this group or this team of professionals called the social health workers, who most of the time are not recognized and they are ignored. But I'm glad that he has recognized and brought this bill in the floor of the House so that we can discuss it. Honorable Speaker, social worker, they really help people to overcome many challenges. And given the kind of situation in the world right now, there are so many challenges. There are challenges that are brought up by a different situation, different occurrence here and there. Be it climate change, be it economy, and also diseases, illnesses. And therefore, these social workers are very important. And whenever they come through, they come, they protect, and they advise, and they advocate for change, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I think it is high time that they are recognized and they are supported in what they are doing so that they can even better the services, because their services are really needed. So I want to support Honorable Kimilu for this bill, and it is a good one indeed. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Member for Kitutu Masaba, Honorable Clive Gizairo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first of all, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Joshua Kimilu for this timely bill. Honorable Speaker, by professionalizing the institution of social workers, we are going to kill so many problems at once. Honorable Speaker, when I became a member of parliament, I didn't know that almost all Kenyans are vulnerable. Everyone is vulnerable when it comes to government services. Honorable Speaker, the challenges we had with the new university funding model is because all applicants were vulnerable. Honorable Speaker, the new medical, the SHA, is having challenges because everybody is vulnerable. Once we professionalize this body, Honorable Speaker, and give it the teeth that it deserves, take it to the grassroots, where everyone knows that this is a professional body, and those serving as social workers appreciate that they are appreciated, we will even be able to have a database of all vulnerable cases from the localities. And this will make every work that's run by government simple and accessible. Honorable Speaker, even when issuing bursaries, these members of parliament can attest. You will never find a case that does not say extremely needy. But if we have a database, we are able to categorize. And this will be protected because this bill also proposes penalties for misconduct. Misconduct by any social worker who does things that are, may be deemed unethical, or by categorizing members to be in a group that they are not. Honorable Speaker, suicide cases are on the increase. mostly by our young generation, the young people. The cases of femicide, they are not identified at the right time because social work has been seen as a useless profession, and therefore nobody takes it serious. But while professionalizing this, you will end up empowering these people. They are able to identify these cases, brought to the fore, and solved in time to mitigate some of these cases like suicides, murders, and other social ills. So, Madam Speaker, this is a bill that we all ought to support. And once it goes through and assented into law, come up with structures on how it is to be established up to the smallest administrative unit. May it be the ward. Let's have an office there, and let's have a database formulated where any person who wants to help the vulnerables can easily access, be it on medical, be it on education, security. You can go there and access the data and be able to make informed decision to this community. Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank Honorable Joshua, and we support this bill. Let us all rally behind it and ensure that it's effected. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Gishugu. Honorable Gishimo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to support this bill, sponsored by Honorable Joshua Kimilu, member for Kaiti. And Honorable Speaker, I want to associate myself with the sentiments of the members who have contributed before, that this is a very, very important bill because it will professionalize the social workers' space in this country, which has been left hanging and a bit disorganized for quite a while. And Honorable Speaker, it's an opportunity through this bill to weed out quacks in the profession of social workers. And these are people who are trained, who have, some have diplomas, some have even degrees, some even have masters and even doctorate in this sector. So it needs to be sanitized and professionalized. Honorable Speaker, just like other professions, this is a profession that will not be relying on the exchequer for purposes of funding. It will be self-regulating. The profession will be through regulations which have already been provided. There's an avenue for provisions, for regulations. I believe regulations will be made on how this will be achieved so that the sector and the profession can be able to be self-regulating. And on that aspect of the regulation, I believe we need to, I'll be proposing an amendment in consultation with the sponsor so that we can leave the issue of the regulations to be made by the CS in consultation with the council, so that the CS who has already been defined in the Act can also have some say, but in consultation with the council, which is the main body to regulate this profession. I will also be seeking, and in consultation with the sponsor, because we are talking about social workers, we also need to define a social worker. What has been defined is only social work, but the social worker has not been defined. It will be very critical that we also define. Also, Honorable Speaker, under clause 5, I will also be seeking to amend in consultation with the sponsor that we delete M, whereby we are leaving room for the institute to do anything else which has not been provided, because this is the law that we are creating. We need to do or to make law with finality, so that if there is anything that is required to be made under this bill, under the law, the act, after it transits from the bill to the law, then that can only be achieved through a regulation. But the act itself cannot provide a provision, cannot give a provision for leaving room for someone to do whatever, or the institute to do whatever they want to do, which has not been provided. Finally, Honorable Speaker, under clause 27, as it has been the norm in many professions where a certificate has been cancelled or suspended, I think it will not be required. It is not necessary for someone to submit that report to the regulating body, to the council. Why don't we just maintain a database which gives the status of every other member of that institute, so that by a click of a button, by any citizen, one can know whether someone is qualified, whether someone has a valid certificate or a suspended certificate or a cancelled certificate, to avoid a situation whereby you are penalizing someone 500,000 for not just submitting a cancelled or a suspended certificate to the council. Like in the profession that I belong, you just need to check the website of the Law Society of Kenya and find whether that person is qualified to practice law. And that way, it will be very easy and you will not subject people to unnecessary penalties. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support this bill. Of course, I will be proposing some amendments at the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chanda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, other than the issue of certification, properly categorizing this profession, and making sure that they self-regulate, there are many other things that I think the bill ought to have recognized. And even if the bill didn't, it's important that the nation recognizes them. A more critical role that social workers do, a lot more things that happen, whether they are different professions, the technical bit of things, the hard stuff that happens, whether they are roads, whether they are water, whether they are dams, whatever they are, many of these things can only work when social workers are in place. All the technical projects that we do interface with human beings. And for them to properly succeed, that interface must be properly understood, must be recognized, and must be constantly checked, if at all things are to work. We've had very many projects that have been done, whether by the government, but they're done with very little background in terms of the community needs. They are done without the issues of the social aspects of these projects. They are done when communities don't understand them very well. And the best way that some of these things can be done is through social workers. There are authorities, for example, the National Irrigation Authority, that has a complete office. And I think they've been doing very well in terms of checking out before they implement a project that involves the communities. Rather than what we popularly nowadays call public participation, the best way that we can sustain the public participation is through social workers. These are the officers, these are the persons that can give a constant touch. They have a constant touch with the public and with the communities. And when we don't recognize them, when many technical departments don't have them in place, that's exactly where we go wrong. Whether they are roads, like I've mentioned, that's where we go wrong. Whether they are bridges, that's where we go wrong. Because we do certain things, sometimes in the name of public participation. And I want to say that the kind of public participation, given that we have also not come up with a proper legislation in terms of how public participation is supposed to be done. Public participations are done in an instantaneous way such that people just discuss, they are called in, it is a specific day, and that's the end of it. Nobody takes them through the intricacies of some of what the projects have. And this is exactly where social workers become important and very critical. They can be the constant face of technical work across communities by constantly checking in terms of the feelings of the communities, because this technical, many of these things that we are dealing with are basically interfacing with human beings. A good example of why social work is critical, an example is where there's a Kenyan who one time had a small baby and went to Germany. a lady, went to Germany, and when she went there, she was details, data, and all that were taken. Little did she know that there is a system in place in this country. So when the baby got to 6 years, she was surprised, was really shocked that a social worker came to her house, came to where she was staying, and knocked, and the first question was where was the child? Is the child in school or not? And I think these are some of the areas which can help us in a much more better way than how we casually look at things. The issue of data, you see, the social workers, if we properly place them with now like the social health workers, this could be a good amount of data that is supposed to help governments, whether they are local in the name of counties or national, for purposes of identifying properly the needs of the people and how these needs are supposed to be addressed. So the whole idea of social workers having their place is very critical, is very, very, very necessary. And I want to really, at this time, really call on many of those departments, many of those agencies that are appearing to be technical. They are dealing with communities, they are dealing with people. And the best interface that they can ever have is to have the social workers in place in their departments all over such that there is a connection between what they do and what communities need. That's what I want to, and that's exactly why I want to support the bill, and I want to believe that there are aspects of it that needs to be improved, particularly that element of interfacing the technical areas that we do in the country with the communities and with the people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, as had been guided earlier, for those coming in, if you intend to speak on this, you'll put the intervention and not the regular button. Honorable member for Makwiny, you've had a problem with your card.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this very important bill. And I start by congratulating the Honorable Joshua Kimilu for bringing on board this very important bill, because social worker is one of the oldest profession, and it's unfortunate that they have taken so long to have the profession having a legal framework. Honorable Speaker, we realize that personally I'm a social worker. So when I talk about social worker, I talk about it with a lot of affection and commitment. And I personally wish to thank Honorable Kimilu for ensuring that this profession is regulated, recognized, and protected. And I wish to say that personally I've been a social safeguard specialist for over 23 years. And we have been working within a framework where this protection was lacking. And it's important to realize that, as many of us have actually said, social work is the glue that touches other professions. And when we have other professions that actually ignore the issue of social work, you realize the results and the outcome sometimes are very limiting. So I think I have operated in scenarios because of our emphasis on technical, where the engineers, the doctors have actually been seen as very important people. While I acknowledge they are very important, I think this does not negate the role of a social worker, and that's why I'm congratulating the Honorable Kimilu for doing this, because in most scenarios with this emphasis of technical work, technical profession, people have taken work very mechanical, and they think we can change this world by just doing things. Nevertheless, as one of the colleagues have actually said, to bring about transformational development, you cannot do it unless you actually work with a social worker. Because even the public participation we do, even here in Parliament, personally I've observed several of them, but you realize the quality of participation is very low. It becomes mechanical because people go with their technical skills and they just approach it in a formal profession where there is no analysis and change. So I believe if this profession is actually recognized and standardized, it will enable each and every sector learn a lot from this particular profession. This is also because if you are a doctor and you don't have social skills, and you don't even hire the skills of the other people, you can actually be treating people diseases that they do not have. Because sometimes what people say is not actually what they suffer from. You need a social expert to analyze some of these issues so that you get to the root cause of the problem. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The issue of also inclusion. We are now living in a society that has a lot of cadres and has a lot of division. We have division between men and women. We have division between old and the young. We have division between the elderly, the sick, and the healthy. It is the role of the social worker to bring about, to narrow this division so that communities can move and actually achieve their objectives. So, Honorable Speaker, I think this is a very valuable bill, and I'm happy it has seen the floor of the House through Honorable Kimilu, and I am sure it will actually change a lot of things. Personally, as I operated as a social safeguard specialist, one of the challenges we faced was the issue of inclusion, especially issues of disability, gender, and elderly people. And you realize in most projects that are actually done, even for this country, they can only benefit sometimes a very few segments, and you realize majority of the people are excluded and do not benefit. But if we recognize this profession, we'll actually ensure that this profession is integrated in the other profession so that we have transformational development as we facilitate change. Honorable Speaker, the other very important point is the issue of remuneration. Because of this profession being taken casually, it has resorted to some employers giving professional sociologists tokenism kind of payment, as opposed to professional payment. So I think if we pass this particular bill, we have a situation whereby those who are professional sociologists, they can actually be recognized like other professionals, and this would actually add a lot of value in our communities. So I think with those few and many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, CNN.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice on this bill. And from onset, I would like to congratulate my brother, Mheshimiwa Kimilu, for coming up with such an important bill. It may seem simple, but it is very important for our country. Mr. Speaker, we need to note that in developing world and even developed world, we live in a world full of discrimination, full of conflicts, full of disasters, full of inequality. Hence, a need for social work to provide technical, financial, and moral support, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, social workers plays a very key role in terms of providing services that governments actually cannot meet because of financial obligation, and needs for them to get recognized. By coming up with this professional body, actually it's going to provide what we call financial, moral, and technical support to workers, Madam Speaker. This body is also going to stop the issues of exploitation of social workers, because that body will now be given a voice to protect the basic needs and also the basic rights of the social workers, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I feel it is very important as we do this, we make sure this bill, we don't only present it in the floor of the House, but we implement it practically to come up with this professional body, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this thing, we have to note that for you to be a social worker, you have to possess a certain traits. And some of these traits, you don't go to school, you don't go to anywhere to inculcate them into your brains, but you need counselors, and you need professionals to assist you in attaining these traits needed to adult some of these people who are vulnerable, Madam Speaker. So in so doing so, we are going to come up with a proper data of all the people who need social support. And this body will play a key role in implementing those few things, Madam Speaker. For us to help the people who have been discriminated, who are facing conflicts in this world, who are facing poverty and even inequality in terms of gender, Madam Speaker, we need social workers. And with those few remarks, I fully support this. Thank you.
Member for Kericho, Honorable Kemei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very, very important bill. And I want to thank the Honorable Joshua for bringing it forth. Honorable Speaker, I come from Kericho County, where we have so many of these tea estates, and the workers in the tea estates needs protection, and this protection has not been so much available. But now with this profession registration, as when this bill goes through, Honorable Speaker, these workers will be registered so that they benefit as a group. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate the fact that their rights will not be violated anymore, and knowing that discipline is very important. And for this case, Honorable Speaker, when we talk of discipline, disciplining of the members, looking at this, Honorable Speaker, I want to specifically appreciate where, and it is noted in this bill that those who engage in negative practices such as nepotism, tribalism, racism, and other acts of discrimination in the discharge of professional functions, Honorable Speaker, will face disciplinary action. And this one is so much important, knowing that in the places like the tea estates, Honorable Speaker, there is so much discrimination, and especially nepotism here also comes forth, and not to forget, Honorable Speaker, where we talk of, and maybe the leaders here use their position to obtain favors of sexual kind. Honorable Speaker, I remember I came here with a statement seeking, and from the Committee of Labor, why we have so many of those cases in the tea estates of sexual discrimination and the sexual issues. Here, Honorable Speaker, with this professional body, I am sure this issue will be sorted. So I would really want to support this bill, Honorable Speaker. I only have an issue of maybe the definition of who is a social worker. Here we only have the definition of social work, but who is this social worker, Honorable Speaker? And I also want to add my voice saying that it will also stop cases of exploitation. That is so much rampant, knowing that, Honorable Speaker, in this country, we have so many of these workers, but their welfare is not attended to. So, Honorable Speaker, I do support, not forgetting also the health sector, where we have so many of these social workers, but even their environment is not looked into. Whatever they do is not even appreciated. So with this bill, Honorable Speaker, when they come together under this professional body, I am sure they will work hard, their spirits will be lifted, and even whatever issues they have will be sorted. Honorable Speaker, I do support the bill. Thank you.
Very well. Member for Kitui West, Honorable Nyenze.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also hear my feelings on this bill. On the onset, let me say that I congratulate Mheshimiwa Joshua Kemilu for coming up with this bill, the Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill number 17 of 2023. Madam Speaker, I note that social workers, especially in Kenya, work in a variety of roles. Some of the roles including raising awareness in different areas, assessing needs of especially the lowly, and providing support to such. So this is a very important bill which will ensure that the social workers' profession is regulated, is supervised, and that there are controls and balances concerning this profession. I also note that the social worker handles and our destitute children and gives hope to our youth. They also do a lot in navigating the challenges of the society and empowers the very needy, also women in our society. So they deal especially with the needy people. and it's very good, it's very important to regulate their work and also have refresher courses which are also regulated by the institute. And this will ensure that no one is exploited, because these are lowly people and they are actually exposed to exploitation. Because other people can also get into the profession and also pretend that they are also qualified, and in the process they can mistreat the people they are supposed to actually assist. So this bill would ensure that there are regulations, would ensure that there are follow-ups, would ensure there is proper training for whoever claims to be a social worker, so that our people are taken care of. And this regulating would also ensure that there are remunerations for the social workers, and that when they go to interact with the people, then they have enough pay. They will not be tempted to also require to be paid by the same people they are assisting. Actually, Madam Speaker, especially in the healthy sector, social workers in developed countries are highly paid and they are highly recognized. And this profession is recognized as a very crucial profession, and therefore they are well remunerated, they are well regulated, and if we end such in our country, this act would actually help us to also improve, especially on the lowly, so that we can reduce the number of people who have issues. The social workers also deal with such issues like disability. They deal with issues like encouraging the sick, especially those ones who have HIV. I've talked about the health sector, to also take their ARVs, because there are some who would not even see the need of doing so. And if they continue without the ARVs, then their lives are shortened. So these social workers, their profession should be recognized and also encouraged by a body which will have checks and balances, which will supervise whatever they do, and which will regulate and ensure that this is a proper institute. So with that, Madam Speaker, I congratulate Joshua Kimilu and say that this one came at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize in our public gallery students from a very interesting name here, Kamuongo Secondary School in Mwingi North from Kitui County. And I will indulge Honorable Makali Mulu to say something to the students.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is Kamuongo. That's the way we pronounce it down there. And on behalf of my colleague, Honorable Nzengu, because they come from Honorable Nzengu's constituency, I want to take this opportunity to welcome the teachers and the students to the National Assembly. It's good that they have come to see what we do in this assembly. My prayer that in future, one of them will be seated where we are seated, serving the nation. So best wishes, Kamuongo Secondary School, and most welcome. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, and on behalf of the Speaker and the whole House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. The last one that seemed to be interested in this bill will be Member for Embakasi West, Honorable Mark Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the outset, let me congratulate the Honorable Kimilu for bringing this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, the issue of social workers, especially in developed countries, they have a very well-established system. If you look, whether it is in Europe, whether you look the countries such as the UK, Germany, if you go to the US, social workers are the backbone of especially the vulnerable in those societies. Here in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, I want to acknowledge that the only place you find social workers are in hospitals. We have them in Mama Lucy Hospital, we have them in Kenyatta Hospital, we have them in KU referral, and when they come in is usually at the point of People have a hospital bill. They are trying to pay that bill. They can't raise those funds. And these matters are referred to these social workers. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a framework of how they can assist these vulnerable communities. In fact, without these social workers in some of these hospitals, you can have bodies, especially for those who are deceased, lying there for months. In fact, in the private hospitals here in Nairobi, without these social workers, because they don't have this system of social workers, we have hospitals that hold on to bodies for 6 months. I have a case in my constituency. I don't want to mention the hospital here, but we've been unable, there's a bill of 500,000. This family is living in a room where they pay 2,500 per month, and you expect them to raise this money? It's not going to happen. So this is such an important bill because it will spread now not just to the hospitals, the hospital bills where they've been working so far, but to be able, even the issue of social protection. We have the Inua Jamii, these cash transfers. It should be social workers going around establishing these vulnerable members of our community, ensuring they get this support. When it comes to issues of bursaries, you know, when we do bursaries, we allow everyone to apply for bursaries. But we all know there are people who deserve perhaps a bigger share of what we give as bursaries. Here in Nairobi, we're only able to give 5,000, maybe 10,000 to orphans. But we know there are people who need a bit more. These social workers will be the ones who will help us. And more importantly, they'll be able to upgrade the CHPs who have been doing such a commendable job. But we need these CHPs to now become trained social workers who are able to work within our communities. This is, it's time we push out, even as much as the NGOs do a lot of work. But the government must now come in and take this space. We allow this space to be taken over by various NGOs who've been doing a commendable job, but unfortunately, they will never be able to do what the government is elected or is supposed to do for the vulnerable communities. So I believe this is such a timely bill that has been brought forward. I believe there are a few amendments, which I hope the Kimilu will allow us to help strengthen this bill as we activate it, because I believe this will be a game changer for the vulnerable members of our community. With that, I support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Members. As had been guided earlier, we had said that if you intend to speak on this, you'll use the intervention button. So I have seen some more who have walked in. Honorable Makali Mulu.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity. At the same time, take this opportunity to thank Honorable Kimilu for this important bill, the bill on social workers. Honorable Speaker, during our time in the university, we used to do sociology as a subject, and then there are people doing social work, which means you get more specialized on issues to do with social matters. So this is a group of people who have been trained for many years, over many years in the universities. And the proposal by Honorable Kimilu is to have a regulatory framework for them so that you can have the whole discipline of social work being regulated. So the reason why I appreciate him is because over the years, we have never had this kind of bill coming to this house or been passed by the House. Honorable Speaker, this House, we have many acts of parliament which regulate different disciplines. We have laws for the lawyers, we have some for the doctors, and when it comes to the medical field, we have actually very many because we have some for nurses. I remember the other day we passed some even for the community health workers. So, Honorable Speaker, this is a step towards the right direction. And why this bill becomes very important is because now we'll be able to know who is a qualified social worker in this country. And social workers do play a very key role in this country in terms matters relating to our people. For example, Honorable Speaker, you now know very well that with the SHA and the SHIP, there has been this controversial kind of issue dealing with assessment. where people are going to their mobile phones, and once you fill your details, it tells you how much you should be able to pay. Some are complaining that they are being given very high figures, others are getting very low figures. And what has been happening is that there has been an attempt by many people to see how they can manipulate the system to get the low amounts. But naturally, Honorable Speaker, this should be the work of a social worker. Somebody who can go down there and then assess based on the characteristics of a household and determine where that also should be. At the same time, following up on what Honorable Mwenja has said, we are using social workers in hospitals to determine the capacity of families to pay. And I can for sure say, Honorable Speaker, many times when my people end up in Kenyatta, we've seen these social workers becoming handy, that they are able to talk to the families, and based on that, they will recommend a waiver of the bills. And this has been of much assistance to the families. So, Honorable Speaker, I think really this bill becomes very important. The only caution I want to do, and this is now the new way of doing it, in the earlier days, some of these associations have been drawing money from the consolidated fund, where they have been funded. I think now the way forward is, since it's a membership kind of club, we'll be requesting Honorable Kimilu to make sure that they will not be expected to draw any money from the exchequer, but through their own contributions, they can sustain whatever association they will be forming. But all said and done, Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill, and we must thank Honorable Kimilu for coming up with this initiative. And I look forward to where it can be fast-tracked so that we get this becoming an act of parliament. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Central Imenti, Honorable Kirima. Honorable Rahim, break the Kamukunji.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, I support the bill on the Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill. It's one of 2023, of which I see that the sponsor of the bill, my colleague, Honorable Kimilu, has done a good thing. Because, Madam Speaker, if I go through the bill as I have seen it, other than the lack of description of who is a social worker, how other things look okay, because it enriches our system of the law to cater for the social work through the Institute of Social Work, whereby if we have an Institute of Social Workers, they are going to be professionally trained. At the moment they get that professional and then get the certificate of which they can practice what they have been trained, they can even earn some remuneration out of the work they are going to be doing. Social workers, Honorable Speaker, are people who really do work in a form of a voluntary form of system, even though they are engaged by the government to do the same. They work at very hard conditions, because if in some circumstances, let's say a court of law aside a social worker to go to a place to assess the person who has been charged and is waiting to be adjudged by the court, the social worker is going to go in some places which are very remote and favorable places of working conditions, and at the end of the day, the social worker sometimes is exposed, even security-wise. It's a risky situation, for if one is sent maybe by an institution like a court to go and assess a person who has been committing some crime, and these crimes sometimes are violent crimes, and this social work has not been provided with people who are armed to protect the social worker. The court can, this parliament can imagine the kind of a risk which the social worker is undergoing through, so that at least he can meet the obligations of the institution which is sending him. So, Madam Speaker, we have different types of social workers, because like the ones who at this material time and are engaged by the county and the national government to go out
our homes, assessing those people who have minor illnesses, those who are carrying out assessment, or those who are carrying out to establish those with diabetes, blood pressure, and so on. They are doing it as social workers. Now, for people who are social workers, it's a broad spectrum of workers. Even the people whom we call area managers or sub-areas, they are doing social worker. They are social workers. They are social workers because nobody is paying them. They are doing it for the social society, just for purposes of the society. So the description here of why I am saying that we need to describe who is a social worker is so that we can be able to encompass, to include all those who are doing social work for free. For now, nobody is paying them, but they are doing it for social services to the society. And as for that, I support this bill, Madam Speaker, and I say echo to the mob of the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member for Narok North, Honorable Pareyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this bill. And before I go on, I would like to congratulate Joshua Mill for bringing this bill. This is a very important bill because it talks of the people who are at the grassroots level, who are with the people.
For the record, it's Joshua Kimilu, not Mwilu.
Kimwilu.
Kimilu.
Thank you. And I'm happy to see this bill because I work with the communities at the grassroots level. And once we have promoted these social workers, these are the people who are going to be advisors to our people. And our people will have people to run to. Because there are communities that are still practicing female genital mutilation. There are communities that are still forcing their daughters to be married. And sometimes these people have nobody to run to. So these should be professionals, well-trained people who can guide and advise and who can also counsel these people when they have problems. So for that reason, I support the bill and feel that the welfare of these people should be looked into so that they can also have their salaries, they can also be recognized amongst the community because they will be working with our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you. Member for Kasipul, Honorable Bara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. But first, I think, I don't know what we are going to do to make the name of my constituency
Kabondo Kasipul
stick in the minds of, it is actually Kabondo Kasipul.
Yes.
Kasipul is a different constituency. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to also talk on this bill. On onset, let me also congratulate our colleague, Honorable Kimilu, for coming up with the bill. Madam Chair, we all know the kind of work that the social worker does in a community. The challenges that face the people in the community, the first person, the contact person is the social worker. Madam Speaker, I want to say at this point that the impact of these people within the community cannot be understated. Therefore, Honorable Kimilu, I think this was a good idea that should have been there like yesterday. What you're proposing here of establishing a regulatory framework for social work professionals is welcome. Madam Speaker, the key issues that he has picked are very, very important. Formalizing the work of the professionals or coming up with a structured way in